Alright, hello, welcome back to another video on this channel. Firstly, before going into the topic of this video, I would just like to say a big thank you for the love and support that everybody has been showing. The numbers are going up, views are going up, subscribers are going up, and a lot of people reaching out in the comment section or on Instagram or LinkedIn, either or. I'm super active on both platforms and also in replying to all of your comments. With that done, also subscribe if you haven't till now. A lot of people watch the videos but haven't subscribed, so it'll be great if you can click the subscribe button because it gives me a lot of motivation to create more content, more value adding content. With that done, let's get into the topic of today's video, which is how to start a business as an international student, as a migrant. This is not going to be what business to start, that is going to be a later video, but in the end I will also talk about the top 7 to 10 businesses that international students, that migrants have started in Australia. So stick around if you need a little bit of inspiration, but this is going to be more of a step by step, more of a detailed breakdown on what the nitty-gritties are, on what actually goes behind the scenes to starting an organization, to starting a company, to starting a business. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, so here are some basic requirements. Step 1 is an ABN, which is an Australian business number. Before we get into an ABN, a big disclaimer: getting an ABN and a TFN is completely free. A lot of my friends have gotten into scams where they've paid $50, $100, $150 to get their TFN or ABN. So just make sure that you're applying on the government's website for both TFN and ABN. I'll link the websites down below in the description. But yep, as I said, ABN stands for Australian business number. Anybody who's running a business, or even anybody who's a sole trader, even if you're a photographer for example, you need to have an ABN through which you'll send invoices to your clients. For all the people who do Uber Eats, Uber X as well, you need to apply for an ABN beforehand, before you even start registering yourself as an Uber driver. Now an ABN can be in your name, so it can be Anshul Sethi, or it can be under my business under my organization's name. It can be Anshul in Adelaide as well. So it completely depends on you. If you want to get an organization's name, you have to get it through a particular organization called ASIC, and again, it's completely free, so you don't need to worry about the costs to get a company ABN for that matter. If you want to know more about how to actually apply for an ABN, there's a video on my channel through which you can see the step-by-steps on how to get an ABN. So it can be really useful for you. On the other hand, if you're applying for a TFN, there's also another video on my channel, so you can go through the same while watching the video. Moving on to number 2. Using that as a segue to go on to number 2, which is a TFN, which is called tax file number. Now most probably, if you're an international student, if you're a migrant, before you start a business, before you start an organization of your own, you would have worked in Australia, and for that you need a TFN, you need a tax file number, and generally takes up to 28 days for the government to give the TFN to you, and you only get your TFN via post, if I'm not wrong. Nowadays they might have started giving it out on email as well, but when I applied three and a half years ago, we only used to get it via post. And it's very important to get a TFN because when you're getting on board for a job, you need to provide your tax file number to your employer so that they can pay taxes on your behalf. That's a really important part of a business as well, because it might be the case that you're retracting some salary from your business on a monthly basis to keep afloat and get yourself paid as well. So that's number 2. Going on to number 3, actually registering your business. Going on to number 3, if you actually want to run a business in Australia, you need to register it via and get an ACN, which is called an Australian company number. Now in this case, you need to know that as an international student, you can run a business, but for you to get an ACN on your organization, there has to be another person who has to be either an Australian permanent resident or an Australian citizen. Getting an ACN, getting an Australian company number in Australia is not free like an ABN is. The costs can start from $500 or $500 onwards. You can check the recent costs on the ASIC website. Well, that's it. You're all set. Once you have an ABN, TFN and an ACN, you're all set and your business is registered. A couple of other services that you might need during tax time or just good to keep around is a lawyer and an accountant. accountant. Now, you don't need to have them full time working on your business. Obviously, if you're running like a cleaning business or something that requires payroll, maybe like a nursing agency as well, you might need to hire an accountant part time or full time to process those payments, to process those pay slips, to pay tax and everything that they might have to do for your workforce. So you might need to look into that. And secondly, you might need to have a lawyer on speed dial, or a contact, a lawyer who you can reach out to if something goes wrong, or if you need advice generally while maybe you're registering your company with a specific board, for example. Because let's say if you're running a nursing agency or a disability company, you need to have NDIS approvals and all of that as well. So it really depends on the type of business you have. Now that we've talked about everything that goes behind the scenes, let me talk about some popular businesses that a lot of international students and a lot of migrants are used to owning. And now I'll just mention them, but in another video I'll go into detail about all of them. Now, as I mentioned, if you're an Uber Eats or an Uber X driver, you need to have an ABN. So that is the most common business technically that international students and migrants own, is being an Uber Eats or an Uber X driver. Secondly, going on to taxi and a cab service. I know a lot of people who moved about 15-20 years ago started driving a taxi, but now have a taxi fleet of their own that they give on rent. So what they do is that they have the financial capability to get 4 to 5 new cars, and then they give that out on rent to new people that come in and want to drive a taxi. So that's a big business as well. Thirdly, a cleaning company is a big business that is owned and operated by a lot of migrants as well, because cleaning jobs are one of the easiest jobs that a student can get, and it's very easy for them to onboard, to get new students in their workforce for their clients and run a business out of that. Another thing that I've seen recently growing is owning restaurant chains, owning franchisees of already established brands and running a business through that. Because once they take on a franchisee or once they open up their own brand, they can have students, they can have Aussies working for them and go to their restaurant, go to their bar or whatever once a week or twice a week, do inventory management, do pay slips, do payroll, and that's a good business to have. Another thing going on is owning petrol pumps. So there's a lot of opportunity, there's a lot of potential here to own particular petrol pumps of an organization. So if I talk about petrol pumps, there's X-Convenience here, OTR, Shell, BP, which you can buy a particular location of that petrol pump. That is one of the more popular businesses that you'll see a lot of international students and migrants own. Coming on to that, a lot of event companies, as I previously mentioned in my videos, are owned and operated by international students because they see a gap and they try to fill it by opening their own event company. For example, flying out different artists, doing concerts. So that's also something that you will see a lot of migrants getting their foot into. Lastly, the most important thing that I want to mention is, if you're an international student and have a business, you still can only work 48 hours a fortnight in your own business. As I said, you'll need to have a TFN to attract some salary out of your business to keep yourself afloat. Even then, you can only show that you're working 48 hours a fortnight in your own business. Opening a business is not a way for you to break that visa condition. Even if you're an Uber Eats or an Uber X driver, your hours get counted. Your hours that you drive Uber X, Uber Eats for do get counted in those 48 hours a fortnight. Well, that was the video around how to start a business, what are some things you should keep in mind, and what are some popular businesses that you'll see a lot of students and migrants owning and operating. If you have any questions, reach out anywhere on either Instagram or LinkedIn, or put your question down in the comments below. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. Other than that, I'll see you in the next one.